I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents.
Prayers from Brooklyn for victims of the earthquake in Haiti.
At this time, Haiti, the Haitians, they are going through a passion, through an enduring pain.
Looking at poverty in a different light.
And a birthday celebration for a local civil rights leader who may one day be a saint.
We founded this church in particular to be a home for the Black Catholics.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a week ago today that a massive earthquake struck the island nation of Haiti, and the country still has extremely urgent needs. Haitian officials now estimate 200,000 people have died, and hundreds of thousands more are living in tent cities all around the nation's capital of Port-au-Prince.
Haitians do remain hopeful, however, and those hopes were in the hearts of many here in Brooklyn, who came together for a special mass at Holy Cross Church in Flatbush this past Friday.
Auxiliary Bishop Guy Sansaric, the first Haitian-American bishop in the whole United States, was the main celebrant, and Father Donaldson Thévenin preached the homily in both English and in Creole.
Que son nom soit béni. Bon Dieu baille, bon Dieu prend, c'est pour nous béni. En mitan souffrance nous, en mitan tribulation, en mitan pays qui finit, nous capable de dire pays qui crasé, eh bien, c'est béni notre mettre là. C'est loué notre mettre là.
Lots of us here, lots of Haitians have been touched by this tragedy. They have friends, family members, and lots of them here, they may lose hope. They may lose their faith. For this reason, I selected readings that will help them to understand God's presence in their life.
This is a message of the gospel. Never to lose hope. Never to lose hope. Message parole l'évangile là, c'est pas jamais perdre espoir.
As I help people understand, at first, I put this note there, this folder, and I ask them to come forward, to write the name of the loved ones that they know has been confirmed dead. And at the same time, after the homily, they were giving a candle. That candle, they walk in procession to put that candle around that pool.
I think they were here for three reasons. It's a grieving community that they needed to be comforted by God's word and by God's grace. They need to be consoled and comforted. Number two, they have to pray for the deceased, their deceased relatives. And number three, they have to regain courage and realize that this is not the end of their country nor the end of the world.
At this time, Haiti, the Haitians, they are going through a passion, through an enduring pain. They need to fasten the belt and accept that and endure it. And when they endure it, they will survive. That if we endure it with the Lord, we will win with the Lord.
We as Haitians, we have come to believe that God is with us. We have come to believe that Jesus is with us. And we have come to believe in our suffering, God will rescue us. Amen. We have come to believe through our experiences with God.
This Mass was meant to give courage and strength to the Haitians. God is giving us the strength. And God, through other people, is giving us strength as well. Haiti will be back again. And then the international community will realize that they have done something unto this. They have helped Haiti become Haiti again.
Holy Cross Church in Flatbush there, and we'll have more of the latest news on Haiti and the rest of the day's headlines when Currents returns. But first, the Brooklyn Diocese is home to a large Haitian population.
It certainly is, and this past Sunday we went to St. Jerome's in East Flatbush. Their parishioners spoke in their native Creole about their hopes for their homeland. And throughout tonight's show, we'll share what they had to say.
Jusqu'à présent, beaucoup de gens m'ont formé. Babo. Jusqu'à présent, bon sentiment fort.
Moi connais premièrement zone yo, route yo comment yo fait, me connais même le pas gen tremblement gon ti la pluie tomber qui désastre qui gagne.
Ça t'a choqué moi en pile. En pile, en pile. Je me sens que moi toujours que émotion comme pas qu'à parler.
Moi crois que c'est une bagarre catastrophe. Et jusqu'à présent, je suis capable de dire que je suis jusqu'à présent, je cherché.
Moi, fait fin passer à parler à comme on en Haïti, pas de rien. Et puis, dans seconde, dans de ça passé.
Je me senti très triste, premièrement. Puis deuxièmement, je que c'est une bonne opportunité pour les peuple haïtien et c'est uni plus pour aider le pays à sortir dans une plus grosse situation économique et politique liée.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Coming up, a birthday celebration for a future saint.
But first, let's check the day's headlines. Well, we just showed you a mass in Brooklyn to remember the victims of the Haiti earthquake. As we've told you before, the majority of Haitians are Catholic. And even amid the death and destruction there, Sunday was a time for those still in their home country to return to their faith as well. CNN's Jonathan Mann reports.
In a devastated community, one pillar still stands. At least one place still offers shelter and comfort. The morning service at the Church of Saint Jean de Bosco, where suffering people proclaim their faith. The pews took longer to fill up than they usually do. Attendance isn't normally a problem, but it is a symptom. At this first Sunday Mass since the earthquake, so many parishioners are homeless or displaced. An uncounted number are dead. I have a cousin who disappeared, Marie-Olette Charlestin told us. To this day, I haven't seen her. Father Ducange Sylvain said it's a miracle that his church was spared when the earthquake damaged or destroyed so many others. The priests who minister here all survived, even though seminarians, priests, and even the most senior archbishop in the country were among the earthquake's victims. Despite the deaths, Father Ducange told us, despite the suffering, despite the trials, people can go on, he said, because they have faith. The destruction reaches right up to the doors of Saint Jean de Bosco, and now the church is reaching out. The Catholic Church has long been one of the largest aid organizations at work in Haiti, but right now even its resources are being stretched to the limit. Every inch of available space is being put to work. We're in the courtyard of a school that's right next to the Church of Saint Jean de Bosco. The church has closed down the school and put this place to work essentially as a relief center. During the day, people are fed here. Their kids can play on the basketball court, but at night, that court is a dormitory. Hundreds of people who've been moved from homes that have been destroyed or are too dangerous to return to. Hundreds of people come here to find a safe place to bed down. The neighborhood is destroyed, she tells us. She lives right nearby, but she said they're here because they have no other refuge. Those who have gone are gone, Marie-Olette Charlestin told us, but we are still here. And the church, she says, gives them hope.
That is Jonathan Mann reporting. Well, back here on U.S. soil, it is down to the wire in the race to fill the Massachusetts Senate seat held by the late Ted Kennedy. Voters braved chilly temperatures, rain, and even snow today to cast their ballots. The race has garnered national attention recently as Democrat Martha Coakley, who is Catholic, saw her double-digit lead in the polls evaporate. She went into today's special election tied with or trailing Republican State Senator Scott Brown, according to most polls. The man who shot Pope John Paul II almost 29 years ago is now free. Mehmet Ali Aja was released from a Turkish prison yesterday. Aja says he will talk to the media in the next few days, but reports say it's doubtful that his comments would clear up any questions surrounding the 1981 shooting. He's issued contradictory statements over the years, and there are concerns about his mental health. Pope John Paul met Aja in 1983 and forgave him. Well, Pope Benedict XVI paid a long-awaited visit to Rome's main synagogue Sunday in hopes of improving Catholic-Jewish relations. Many Jews have been critical of the Vatican's recent decision to move World War II-era Pope Pius XII closer to sainthood. Critics say Pius did not do enough to stop the Holocaust, but Pope Benedict defended the Vatican's actions, saying help was given in a hidden and discreet way.
Atheist groups recently took out ads on New York City subways proclaiming they are good without God. Now a Manhattan church is answering back with an ad in some 1,000 subway cars. The pro-God ads will feature the words "God is" in the center, surrounded by words describing God's qualities. The ads are sponsored by Times Square Church in the Theater District. Pastor Carter Conlon says the church wants to encourage non-believers and former believers to seek God. Every year, it seems like the commercials that air during the Super Bowl are talked about just as much as the game itself. One spot that is sure to draw plenty of attention this year is a pro-life and pro-family ad featuring college football star Tim Tebow. The evangelical group Focus on the Family is producing the ad, which reports say will feature Tebow and his mother sharing personal stories and pro-life points of view. Focus on the Family says it received donations for the ad, which reportedly could cost $2.8 million. Well, the nation paused to remember the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. yesterday. But for Black Catholics in Brooklyn and Queens, Sunday was a day of remembrance and celebration. The Vicariate for Black Catholic Concerns hosted a praise and prayer service at St. Gregory the Great Parish in Crown Heights, and our cameras were there.
The theme for this year's Dr. King celebration for the diocese was taking back our future in our hands. We felt that in the letter from the jail in Birmingham by Dr. King to the pastors around the South during the civil rights movement, that he was really summoning the pastors not to be complacent and not to misjudge his movement as being a movement that was going to hurt and endanger the Black community, but instead his movement, his nonviolent movement of protest and change, was to serve, to give the Black community and all those who would help the Black community get through the difficulty of segregation and racism, an opportunity to take control, a redemptive form of control.
He was also a leader, but he was also a man of God, and to see that all things are possible through God, and that leadership, true leadership, comes from the strength of God himself.
He's one of our forefathers with our history. And I say that because he's done a lot. Like, I can't say how much he's inspired me personally to always achieve my goal and to always have a dream and never allow my dream to ever fall short.
My main speech today was about Haiti and helping. If Dr. King was alive, he'd be ready and foremost the first one in Haiti, helping our brothers in there. So that's what we have to do, and that's the important part. Because when one part of the body suffers, we all suffer.
There's still more work to be done because there's still a lot of segregation, there's still a lot of hate in our world, and there's still a lot of racism that no matter how much he preached for us to be together and to be nonviolent, there's still much violence and there's still a lot of segregation now.
We need to summon people to the power that God has given them, that by being deliberate, prayerful, and intentional, they can look at the crises that face them, look to God from whence cometh all our help, and look to the people around them with gifts and talents and resources to make the best attempt they could to change things for the better with the power of God and with the help of good people.
Great celebration there. Well, stay tuned. There's much more currents coming up straight ahead.
Le nom les Matthieu 28. J'ai déjà dit ça. Avant toute bagaille ça nous avons pour un tremblement de terre, nous avons pour un grand goût, misère, toute bagaille ça pour frapper. Ça fait la foi nous vient plus fort.
No, it's a catastrophic. It's natural. It's not God. It's not God.
Non, bon Dieu pas abandonné Haïti parce que si bon Dieu était abandonné Haïti, bah la tape plus mal toujours.
God loves Haiti, no matter what happen now. C'est parce que bon Dieu aime nous, bon Dieu a fait nous unir nous, bon Dieu a demandé pour nous gagner union. Pour nous voir que lui là, pour nous connaître c'est lui-même qui a droit tuer, c'est lui qui a droit à la vie.
Je pense que son leçon liée pour peuple haïtien, pour personne ne pas comprendre que supérieur à quiconque.
Pas du tout. Bon Dieu avec nous dans toutes circonstances que nous y. Pas du tout. L'église là plein monde nous kembe ferme, n'a toujours prié pour moun yo qui derrière.
Il y a une question, nous n'avons pas de réponse pour eux, parce que nous n'avons pas expliquer. Et nous pas même essayer d'expliquer, parce que quand il s'agit de bon Dieu lui-même, on ne peut pas dire, pas de technologie, pas de science qui peut expliquer ça, le penser. Ça nous connaît fort chaud. Moi, je connais bon Dieu, mais peuple haïtien. Et je connais bien, nous avons sorti dans ça quand même.
Welcome back. Well, during the winter, we become more and more aware of the neediest around us, and many charities reach out to those seeking shelter during this coldest time of the year. Life can be really changed by a warm bed and a hot meal. But here's a resource you may not have considered: a camera.
Well, we heard about an unusual ministry in Portland, Oregon, and one that is spreading to other parts of the country as well. It involves taking portraits of men and women who are served by a Catholic parish, the downtown chapel in Portland. So we were a little curious to learn more, and earlier today I spoke with the chapel's pastoral associate, Andrew Nate. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us here on Currents today.
Hi, Jessica. Thank you for having me.
We wanted to talk a little bit about these pictures that the downtown chapel has done, the portrait project, for lack of a better term. Tell us how this all got started and what was the inspiration behind it?
Sure. The genesis of a lot of things here are just ideas that parishioners or guests bring to the community. And in 2006, a parishioner of ours had read an article in the Christian Science Monitor about a photography instructor at Santa Clara University who took a class to a homeless shelter in San Jose, had those students volunteer there, and then as they got to know people who came for services, offered them portraits. And then we kind of took that idea and said, this is something that our community could really benefit from. So we, 3 years ago, just gave it a shot.
You started in on it. And,
yeah,
and who are the people that you're taking the pictures of, and what kind of circumstances are they in? Because these aren't just regular parishioners, if you will. These are people that come from some challenging backgrounds, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, we're the urban parish in Portland, Oregon, and we provide a variety of hospitality programs. They include food and clothing, basic needs, emergency services for people living on the streets, people experiencing a variety of poverty issues, including addictions, mental illness, and a number of people who have housing but are constantly in danger of losing that housing. So it was for that community that we serve on a daily basis.
How did you get, well, first of all, what was the reaction when you saw people start having their pictures taken? People are, watching these pictures as we go through this interview, and
Sure.
They, of course, at home have their reactions to it. What do you think the reaction was from the people whose portraits were being taken?
Well, our first year, people were really skeptical and hesitant. People often, their experience of having a portrait taken might be a mugshot or something like that. But I think over the past 3 years, people have seen the portraits that were taken and want to participate in that. There's kind of four things that happen through this project that I've seen, and one is people are allowed to see themselves through a new lens, and so this sense of pride in that being their portrait. It offers connections because we offer people a chance to use these as gifts over the holidays to send to family members.
Right, you give them a couple of 5x7 portraits, and you also include the postage and the envelope so that they can send them to people that they may have been out of touch with.
Oh yeah, I mean a big issue with with all these different poverty issues is broken relationships, and that people don't have that support network anymore. And so having something that can maybe bridge that for people, a simple portrait that they can send to a family or friend during the holidays can help sometimes bridge those relationships again. And so that's definitely a piece of the mission of this project.
And you work with volunteer photographers who donate their time, and what's their reaction been in terms of having their subjects be the subjects in this project?
It's pretty amazing. The photographers who come are donating their time, and I'm not going to speak for their experience, but just being outside that studio room and hearing the laughter and the joy coming from it, and seeing how people are transformed just by spending 2 to 5 minutes with these photographers is phenomenal. So I think the photographers just enjoy just kind of the basic relationships that are kind of born through these portraits that they take. So
and when people often have their picture taken, it is sort of a form of self-identity and seeing themselves in a new lens, as you said before. Have you heard the stories of more esteem, greater esteem, and a greater sense of place and of home, if you will, as a result of these pictures that you've offered them?
Yeah, we just completed our third year, and the one thing that I now see is people want to have their portraits taken so that they can participate and belong in community. So having their portrait taken, and if you visit our website, we do a slideshow each year of the portraits, and people want their portrait to be part of that because it's a snapshot in time of this community, and people, do trust this community and do come to this community for a variety of things, and they want to be seen as participating in it. So I think that's also has great value for the community.
It puts them on the map in a very unique and special way. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for being with us here on Currents today. That's all we have time for, but we will showcase your website on our website so people can take a closer look at some of these great pictures.
Well, Francesca, thank you so much.
Thank you. And that is Andrew Nate from the Downtown Chapel in Portland. And we also have much more about the portrait project on our blog, including a link where you can see more of these pictures. Just head over to currentsny.net and click on Riding the Wave.
That's so cool, and I love how people are now seeking them out, trying to become a part of it now that they know that it will kind of be on the web and become part of that online community.
Yeah, it's a nice way for them to have that self-validation when they see themselves with such a nice picture having been taken of them.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to seeing many more of them.
Well, stay tuned. There's much more Currents straight ahead.
It's going to be better. It's just the beginning. We're going to have a beautiful Haiti now.
Tout pays commence avec misère. Dans le pays qui commence avec bagaille douce, tout pays commence avec ça qui pas bon. Comme ça, n'a commencé avec pas bon pour nous arriver dans ça qui est bon.
Il s'attaque à bon, un wake-up call pour nous tous en tant que frères et sœurs, que nous revenons pas rien, c'est que c'est nous tous qui pour unir pour nous sauver Haïti.
M'espérer Haïti a vint plus belle qu'avant. Nous avons un bel rêve pour rêve la réaliser.
Haïtiens, nous sommes un peuple qui a courage en pile. Nous frapper, nous camper. Nous tomber, nous lever camper encore. Nous tomber, nous lever. Cette fois-ci, nous avons levé tout.
Moi, je connais bon Dieu après mettre Haïti, Jean Haïti était avant. Parce que c'est bon Dieu qui met ciel là, c'est lui qui met terre. C'est lui qui crée nous. Haïti pas pour nous, Haïti c'est pour bon Dieu.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, yesterday marked the observance of the birthday of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But even before taking note of that special day, some Catholics in Brooklyn gathered to celebrate another civil rights pioneer, a priest who was on the path to sainthood. His name, Monsignor Bernard Quinn.
Last night, we brought you our profile of this saint in this city. Monsignor Quinn worked tirelessly to help Black Catholics throughout the city and brought hundreds into the church. Well, Friday was his birthday, and that was cause for a special celebration at St. Peter Claver Church.
We are here today to celebrate the birthday of Father Bernard J. Quinn, who shares the same birthday with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King.
God has called us to the gospel.
They didn't want him bringing in any black people in there, you see. In the Baden River, it was like almost white. And then when he came and had the orphanage, they didn't like the idea of him taking in black people as, he cared for everybody. So they didn't like it, and they burned it down, the orphanage, 3 times. He built it back up again. Every time they burned him down, he built it back up again.
Monsignor Quinn was the first priest of the Brooklyn Diocese to reach out to the African Americans who, prior to his time, were overlooked by the churches of the diocese. Monsignor Quinn began an apostolate to blacks in 1920, so we have to remember the time period.
He just was a lovable man,
I didn't get to know him too well in the later time, but I remember being out at Wading River when he started Camp Claver, because Camp Claver was a place that youngsters like myself could go. And at that time, even though it was big money, it was only $1 a day, and you got, as we said in the service, you got 3 hots and a flop.
They were black Catholics from the beginning of the diocese. Of course, there were a few of them, but their numbers grew because many of them came as immigrants, just as the Europeans were coming as immigrants. The blacks were coming as immigrants from the Caribbean islands and from Africa. And of course, African Americans were moving from the southern states to New York and the largest cities in search of jobs. So there was really a need for a ministry to the African American people and the black people from the Caribbean. And prior to 1920, they were not really accommodated in the churches, you know, because of the of racism, you know, at that time. And Father Quinn started his ministry. He founded this church in particular to be a home for the black Catholics.
Well, it's nice to be able to celebrate the lives of 2 very important men in the civil rights movement in the span of about 3 days there, and really focus on that because they worked in very different places. I mean, of course, Dr. King in the South mostly, and Monsignor Quinn here in the city. So it's nice to be able to celebrate those who are really on the forefront of civil rights here in the U.S.
Yeah, an integration of both, and all races really, not of both black and white, but of all, and that civil rights really speaks to rights for all people, as opposed to just focusing on you know, African Americans or black Americans here. That Dr. King you know, obviously championed that as well. And along those lines, talking about people's rights, and we, you know, continue to have the thoughts of the Haitian people in our mind, and prayers for them. And we know that we have a big Haitian population here in Brooklyn, and we would love to hear any of your stories and hear from you about any of the experience that you've had, good or challenging, about this. And you can always do that on a variety of ways.
That's right. You can do it on our website, currentsny.net. You can do it also on our blog, Riding the Wave, which is there as well, and on Facebook also. Go to facebook.com/currentsny. Easy to comment there as well. So several ways to stay in touch with us about it.
Well, that is it for this edition of Currents. Coming up tomorrow, Great Expectations. We'll talk to one of the leaders of EMC, which stands for Expectant Mother Care, about the group's outreach to women in Brooklyn and Queens.
But in the meantime, remember, you do not need a TV to watch Currents. You can always catch us online at currentsny.net. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Have a good night.